Hi, this is Kiran, and today we're going to talk about Identity Snap. First of all, before we get into Identity Snap, we need to talk a little bit about what a snap is, where it fits in the overall MetaMask architecture, and what do you need in order to install Identity Snap. A snap that supports various features such as issuing verifiable credentials, generating DIDs, decentralized identifiers, generating verifiable presentation, and so on and so forth. First of all, let's talk about MetaMask. So, in order to install Snap, because the Snap feature of MetaMask is still in beta stage, you need to install Flask, MetaMask Flask, which is just a developer version of MetaMask. So one thing to note is that if you already have MetaMask, regular MetaMask installed on your browser, you will not be able to install MetaMask Flask. Actually, it's a bad idea to install both because they will have some conflicts. So in order to test the capabilities of a snap, at least for right now, until the MetaMask team goes to production release, the only way is to uninstall MetaMask and then install MetaMask Flask by going to metamask.io/flask. It just allows you to play around with the Snap feature. So that's what MetaMask Flask is. Now let's hop on to Snap. What is a Snap? A Snap is a plugin system that is introduced by MetaMask, and it's basically designed to extend the functionality of MetaMask by allowing developers to create custom plugins that can be integrated into the wallet. So you can think of a Snap as a program that runs in an isolated environment that can customize the wallet experience. So what this means is that you can build different plugins that enables different users to interact with different new blockchains, non-EVM compatible blockchains, such as Bitcoin, Dogecoin, Litecoin. You can build a snap to interact with those blockchains. So, and in our case, we are actually introducing the capability of decentralized identifier through the use of Snap development. So that's what we're going to be focusing on. All right, so what is Identity Snap again? So Identity Snap is a plugin that we just talked about that developers can incorporate into their own applications to enhance the MetaMask functionality by adding support for decentralized identifiers and verifiable credentials. So what this is this plugin can be installed as a JavaScript npm package on web applications. So with the Identity Snap installed in any of the website, any application, users can create verifiable credentials using their MetaMask account or their non-MetaMask account, because Identity Snap supports the use of both the regular MetaMask account and non-MetaMask account. Some of the example use cases for Identity Snap is secure access control. So Identity Snap can be used for authentication, authorization purposes, granting users secure access to various online services based on their verifiable credentials that they have under their wallet. Another use case is credential management. So users can create, manage, verify their credentials, such as educational qualifications, professional certifications, with the added convenience and security provided by the MetaMask extension itself. The other use case is a decentralized identity management. Basically, Identity Snap empowers users to establish and maintain control over their digital identities through the use of DIDs and verifiable credentials. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into how our Identity Snap works. As we talked about, Identity Snap is a program that runs inside MetaMask in an isolated environment within MetaMask. What that means is, as a user, as a consumer, you're not going to be able to interact with the Snap directly because it's a program inside MetaMask. You need to first integrate into some application, which we have done here in this example website. And and then what happens is, through the website, you can interact with different APIs that are exposed by the Identity Snap, such as creating DID, resolving a DID, getting verifiable credentials, and so on and so forth. All right, so how do we do this? So we have already provided an example website that integrates the Identity Snap already. It's a React application here. So let's go ahead and do the first step, which is connect. So what this does is it basically if the identity snap is not installed within MetaMask, it's going to install the identity snap locally. And I have my identity snap running locally here, but in the production case, it would probably point to some NPM registry because the identity snap is also available as an NPM package, as we mentioned earlier. All right, so let's go ahead and connect. So on the next screen here, it's gonna tell me what are the permissions that this snap specifically needs. For instance, in order to sign different credentials, in order to verify credentials, you need access to your private key. So the private key, your private key of your wallet, is used to sign different credentials. So that's why it needs access to the Ethereum accounts and assets. And then in order to for some of the things, it does require access to the internet. Remember that a snap is it runs in an isolated environment, so in order to go to the internet, we first need to request permission from the user that we do that the user needs to accept before they install it. And in our case specifically for Hedera, we are going to be interacting with the Hedera ledger, and for that we need to go out of the MetaMask environment and access the internet, the blockchain specifically, and that's why we are requesting this permission here. And then there's also some other permissions here, like this snap allows other snaps to communicate directly with other snaps, and it allows their websites to communicate directly with this snap, and it basically stores and manages data on this device, which in this case is our browser. And then there's a permission that you need to accept to display different dialog windows in MetaMask. All right, let's go ahead and do approve and install. All right, we just talked about that. So in the background here, what it's doing is it's installing the identity snap. So once that's done, you can see here on this website, it shows status is connected. Currently, we're connected to the Ethereum mainnet, and our current address, MetaMask address that we're connected to, is this address, which is here. One thing to note is that Snap does not let you interact with the MetaMask accounts that have been imported through private key. So what that means is, let's see, I have an imported account here. It says imported. Snap has no access to this account, so we cannot interact with this account directly. And there are ways to do that, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, the gist of it is snaps can only access the regular MetaMask accounts that are generated through your 12-word mnemonic phrases. And I have 9 different accounts here, and then one account which imported through using private key, and this one I cannot interact with it using the Snap directly. But there are ways to do that because Identity Snap supports interacting with both the regular MetaMask account and an external account, or also a non-MetaMask account. All right, so we are currently connected to Ethereum mainnet, but honestly, Identity Snap is supported on all the EVM compatible chains. So let's go ahead and interact with our very first API. So whenever I click on send message, what it's doing is it's basically interacting with the hello API of Identity Snap, which basically displays this pop-up here. First, we need to do some accept some risks associated with the snap that we talked about earlier. And then here, this is the content that is generated through the hello API of the Identity Snap, and so it's displayed here. And this is entirely done through interacting with our hello API of our snap. Now we're going to talk about, let's interact with a more sophisticated account information here. All right, so let's go ahead and do resolve DID. So this is going to generate a DID document here. So when I do resolve DID, what it's going to do is it's going to interact with the resolve DID API of the Identity Snap within MetaMask, and then it's going to resolve the DID and generate a DID document. It shows here as an alert box, and you can also see here under console right here that it displays some logs here. This is the DID document. Let me get rid of that. All right, close. Now, let's go ahead and interact with get account info. So this is supposed to get the current account information. So it displays the EVM address of the currently connected account, the DID of this address, which in this case is DID PKH, because that's the default method of Identity Snap. And then for DID-PKH, the format is DID-PKH EIP 155.1 for Ethereum mainnet network, and then our DID. And then public key displays the public key, and then the current method. We're going to interact with the Hedera network here in a little bit, but just wanted to show you guys how you can also use the identity snap to interact with any EVM compatible chains. In this case is our Ethereum mainnet. Now, if I were to get all VCs, it basically retrieves the verifiable credentials that are present within the identity snap storage. There's nothing there yet, so it's gonna return an empty list here. We can see right here. All right, it says number of VCs is 0, so there's really nothing to show. Now let's go ahead and create a verifiable credential. So what this is doing is it's interacting with the create VC API of that identity snap, which basically means that it's taking this field, name, nickname, and then it's going to use these two as the credential subject, and it's going to generate a self-proclaimed verifiable credential based on those values. So what that means is it's going to use my private key for my currently connected address, which is this, to generate a verifiable credential with these values, the name and the nickname, and generate a verifiable credential and store it locally within the snap. All right, let's go ahead and generate that. All right, so it's basically asking us, this is basically displaying like what the credential subject will be. So let's go ahead and approve it. All right, so this is a verifiable credential that was just generated using our identity snap. You can see here that this is a W3C compliant verifiable credential. You have a credential subject with the profile name Kieran Pachai, nickname KP Woods that we just filled out on the website. Issuer is myself because I'm using my own private key to sign this verifiable credential. The type is by default verifiable credential, and then from the website I'm also passing. You can also pass in the credential type to generate, which I have done here. An expiration date is a year from now, and uses JWT proof by default here. And then it also shows the ID associated with this. This is really useful for something local because this ID is the one that represents that points to the verifiable credential that we just generated that is stored within the snap. So now if I were to get the verifiable credentials, what's going to happen is it's going to call the get all VCs API of identity snap. Now, because we just generated a verifiable credential, it's going to show a verifiable credential here with the ID, the storage, which is snap, local, the type of credential, the subject, issuance date, expiration date, and so on, and then it displays the verifiable credential. All right, let's go ahead and hop on over to Hedera network and see how some things are a little bit different here. So give me a second here. All right, so I'm connected. I currently have 1.24 HBAR on this account. All right, now let's go ahead and all I need to do, I don't need to reconnect because Identity Snap automatically detects which account that I'm connected to, which network I'm connected to. So let's go ahead and get the account info here. So we're going to see something new here because we're going to interact with the Hedera network. Remember that a Hedera account has a Hedera account ID associated with the account. So we need to let the snap know what is the Hedera account ID associated with this particular Ethereum address that I'm currently connected to. So again, and that's just the way that Hedera accounts work. Whenever a first transaction is made on this particular Ethereum address, corresponding Hedera account ID is generated on the ledger, and so you need to know your Hedera account ID ahead of time in order to interact with your with the Hedera network, because you need the account ID to interact with Hedera network. So I already have my Hedera account ID for this account. So I'm going to copy right here and then go back to my MetaMask pop-up, and then I'm going to paste my Hedera account ID and then hit submit. Now, after I hit submit, it's going to display more information here, like my account EVM address is still the same because I'm still connected to the same EVM address. It's just a network that's different. Now, instead of DID PKH EIP 155:1, it's 296 because I'm currently connected to Hedera testnet, and the testnet, the chain, the network ID for Hedera testnet is 296. And then this is my DID. This is my public key again, same thing. Method is the same. And then now we have an extra data because it is a Hedera account, and we have an account ID associated with this. Now, this is only the first time. Like, you don't need to fill out your account ID each and every time you try to interact with the API. It's only the first time you have to do it. Again, it doesn't matter which API you interact with first. If the Hedera account ID has not been set, then it's the snap, identity snap, will ask you to enter the Hedera account ID first. So here I actually called get account info, but I could have easily called hello API or resolve the ID API, and I would still have to enter my Hedera account ID because that's the only way to connect to my Hedera account. Now, if I were to resolve my DID, you're going to see something different here compared to what we did with the Ethereum when we were connected to the Ethereum mainnet. All right, here you see that, again, the network ID is for the Hedera testnet. So, okay, that's the only thing that's different. And now, remember that, if you remember, we have already generated a verifiable credential, but that was on the Ethereum mainnet. That was not on Hedera network, Hedera testnet. So when I try to retrieve get all VCs, when I try to call this API, it's going to return 0 because the way that Snap stores all the verifiable credentials for any particular account is by the account address first, and then it also stores it by the network. So if you switch to a different network, and if you have not you're not going to get the verifiable credentials that you were generated while you were connected to Ethereum, because the DID itself is different. So the verifiable credentials, they're not the same verifiable credentials. So let's go ahead and generate a new verifiable credential here. So instead of enter your name, I'm going to do it Kiran Pachai Hedera, and then KP Woods Hedera. I'm going to generate a verifiable credential here, connecting to my Hedera account. All right, so now you see here, name is Kiran Pachai Hedera, nickname is KP Woods Hedera. Let's go ahead and approve it. Now there is a couple of things that's different here. So we do have the issuer ID. Again, the DID is different, but now we also have a new field called Hedera account ID, which is in this case our Hedera account ID for this particular Ethereum address. And then the credential subject is different because this is what we put in. Again, as part of the credential subject, we also add in Hedera account ID because this is a Hedera account. Again, this can be done, currently we only support all EVM compatible blockchains and Hedera, but if we were to do this on something like Bitcoin or Dogecoin or Litecoin, then we could add an additional field specific to those blockchains and have those be part of the verifiable credentials. So in that way, Identity Snap is able to handle all the blockchain networks and any of the DID methods possible. All right, let's go and close that. Now, if I were to, all right, let's see what else we got to talk about. All right, so you may be wondering, well, what are these external account checkboxes that you see here? Remember that in the beginning, we talked about how Identity Snap supports, Snap by itself is unable to interact with the imported MetaMask account. Like if I were to choose this account and then try to interact with this, then it's going to throw an error. So let's just go ahead and try that just to see this in action. So I'm calling a hello world API here. Give me a second. Oh, there it is. Error while trying to get the account. Failed to get private keys from MetaMask account, because Snap does not have access to those imported accounts. And so you may be wondering, well, how do I interact with those kind of external accounts, non-MetaMask accounts, so to speak? Well, in that case, we could use those. Let me jump back over to my regular account. Whenever you're connecting to a non-MetaMask account, or an external account, we call it, it doesn't matter which account you're connected to here. from the list here because it doesn't use any of these. We're going to interact with get account info. I'm still connected to Hedera account, so let me go ahead and refresh this page. All right, so I'm gonna check this box, and then all I need to do is enter my account ID for the account, the external account that I want to connect to, because this is a Hedera account that I'm trying to connect to. If I was connected to an EVM blockchain like Ethereum, Polygon, something like that, then I would need to enter my EVM address. But because I'm connected to my Hedera network, I just have to enter my Hedera account ID. Now, if I try to get this, what's going to happen is, because this account is not yet stored within MetaMask state, within the Snap state, it's going to ask me for the private key associated with this account ID. And so everything is still inside MetaMask, so nothing leaves MetaMask. So what happens is, after I enter the private key here, it's sending this private key to the Snap directly. So everything is still stored within MetaMask, and the security is guaranteed by MetaMask. So let me go ahead and enter the private key for that particular account here, Hedera account. All right, after I enter that, what's going to happen is I am going to get my account. So this is how you would interact with a non-MetaMask account. So remember that this is our EVM address that previously we could not interact with just by selecting this, because Snap is not able to interact with the imported account directly. In order to do that, Identity Snap does allow you to do that, but you need to connect to it differently. And in our case, we connected to the external account directly using our account ID, and this account ID is associated with this particular EVM address, so that's why it automatically retrieved this EVM address. All right, so let's go ahead and try this out on our Ethereum mainnet. So let me go ahead and refresh this page. So let's say I want to connect to some external account, a non-MetaMask account, and I know my EVM address. So I'm just gonna pick a random Ethereum address here. Let me still use the same EVM address as this one. So I need to check this box and then enter my EVM address, because this is an EVM chain, and I do that. And again, it's going to ask me for the private key associated with this particular EVM address, and then only then I can use this. This is the same private key, so let me just go ahead and do that. All right, so we got all our account info here, and you only need to do this once if it's not within the MetaMask Snap state yet. After it's done, if you were to click and interact with any other API, you don't need to do anything. So if I were to do external account and then put in the EVM address here, because I already have, let's see, oh, wrong one. Enter the private key there. All right, let me do this again. External account, resolve DID. This account is already part of the Snap state, so it's going to automatically resolve the DID, because I don't need to re-enter the private key again and again and again, because it's saved within the MetaMask Snap state after that. And I can, interact with any other functionalities here. All right, let me go back to let me go back to Hedera testnet, because that's what we're going to test with. All right, let's go ahead and play around with other functionalities here. So one of the things that we also implemented is configure Google account. So what I can do is I can actually save, I can configure my Google account. It's going to connect to my, get my access token from my Google Drive, and then save it within the MetaMask state. And then after it's saved, okay, it looks like it's successful. Now, if I were to, I can basically sync my verifiable credentials between my MetaMask state and my Google Drive. So what this means is, everything, all my verifiable credentials are currently saved locally. If I wanted to export them to Google Drive, then all I need to do is sync Google Drive. And what it's going to do is it's going to do two things. First thing it's going to do is it's going to see if there is any credentials that are already on my Google Drive associated with this particular DID. In this case, looks like I do have it. I'm not going to accept this because I only care about exporting. And then I generated this verifiable credential just a while ago, and it's asking me if I wanted to export this to Google Drive from my MetaMask Snap state to my Google Drive. And if I do that, it's going to save it to my Google Drive. All right, now if I were to do, let's see, now let's try to do this sync Google again. Now instead of showing one VC for my Google Drive, it's going to show both of my VCs because it knows that the verifiable credentials, I now have two verifiable credentials on my Google Drive. Let's see, approve. Let me do that one more time. Oh, okay. Let me retrieve the VCs here. So I can also select Google Drive. Okay, now let me go ahead and retrieve all the VCs from my Google Drive. Now you see here that I have two VCs in my Google Drive that I exported just a while ago, right here. This is the one. And so you're able to interact with any of these APIs by choosing the storage here from this dropdown. And in the back end, it's basically passing some parameters, either the Google Drive or Snap. You can even choose both, and that's totally fine. You can do this for every single API here. But that's the gist of it. One more thing that I wanted to mention is we have this additional API available specifically if you're connected to Hedera account called Create New Hedera Account. Now, sometimes there is often a case where you may be wondering, like, you are connected to your regular Ethereum account on MetaMask, and it doesn't have a Hedera account associated with it, because remember that Hedera account ID is generated on the ledger whenever you first interact with it, or like someone sends some HBAR to that particular account. In order to do that, like for my account 9, I don't have any HBAR, so I don't have any Hedera account associated with this. So if I were to check this, let me go to hashscan. It's going to return, it's not going to have any Hedera account associated with it. So this API, what it does, it uses my currently connected account. Let me go to account 2. Uses my account right now to, let's see, I want to generate a Hedera account ID for this particular account, which doesn't have an account ID yet. So this API lets me do that automatically. So I can decide like how many HBAR I want to send. I'm just going to do 1 for now. So let's see. All right. So now what's going to happen is it's going to send 1 HBAR from my currently connected account over to the new Ethereum address. So it's going to do this using the Hedera JSON RPC relay to send some small amount of HBAR to this address, which doesn't yet have a Hedera account associated with it. But after this is successful, it's going to create a new Hedera account ID on the ledger. Anyways, so that's basically an overview of Identity Snap, what it does. And you can get started with playing around with Identity Snap with the example code. It's available on our GitHub repository. But you can also try to look around our documentation here on docs.tuum.tech/identity snap DIDs on MetaMask. And one other thing that I wanted to mention is if you go to Snap RPC APIs, here, actually we have documentation for each and every single APIs here. So let's go to get account info. and it talks about how to use this, how to, with some sample code, how to use it in your own application, what actually happens in the background, what the API does, and so on and so forth. And also it has a live demo here. So let's go ahead and try to run this here. So you can see here, just so that we can see it in full screen. All right, so you can see here, this is the HTML code for this particular, demo here. And there's a JavaScript code that is, whenever you connect to Snap, it's going to install the identity snap of the NPM registry. So currently I have one snap, which I installed locally. So if I go to settings, snap, I have one snap from local, HTTP, localhost 8080. If I wanted to install, if I wanted to just play around directly on the documentation portal, I can do that. When I do connect to Snap, what is going to happen is it's going to reach out to the NPM registry to connect to Tuum Tech Identity Snap. It's going to do the exact same thing that we experienced in the beginning, just that it's going to install the official release of the Snap. All right, that's done. All right, so looks like it's installed, and we can see that it's installed by going to settings, snaps. You can see here that I have two snaps here, identity snap. One is from NPM, one is from local. All right, let's go ahead and try to interact with this get account info API of identity snap. It's basically interacting with my currently connected account. So let's go through that. All right, it's asking me for my account ID, which in this case, let me quickly get my account ID. Where is it? Right here. And there you go. So yeah, you can play around with this directly on the browser. You don't have to run this local instance of this React application to play around. You can directly go to our documentation portal and just play around. It'll do everything for you. You can even look at the example code. You can check out some other, like some architecture diagrams of how the identity snap works. For instance, like, this is how the identity snap is structured. You can see here that you can have different snaps within MetaMask, and one of them is identity snap. There's these different APIs at the high level, and then this is how this is where the private key is stored, like account config, like where the VCs are stored, like what VC metadata, things like that. All right, so and then you can also check out how identity snap interacts with different blockchains, how it interacts with a MetaMask account, a non-MetaMask account, everything like that. So feel free to check those out. And we also have a getting started guide here that guides you through application setup, a simple hello world, and specific things related to Hedera Hashgraph and things like that. All right, well, hope you enjoyed that. And we're excited that Identity Snap will be used in a lot of different applications that utilize the power of DIDs and verifiable credentials to open up some interesting use cases. Thank you.